Hello class, we are now going to be looking at chapter 4, and coincidentally we are in week 4. So we will be doing a needs analysis next. We've completed our strategic planning model and learned all about KSAs and that type of thing. And now, once we've evaluated all of our job descriptions and put job descriptions in where there weren't any job descriptions, the next step is to do a comprehensive needs analysis. So what do we need? So as we discussed in class, what we need is the difference between where we are and where we want to be in the strategic plan. So having said that, the first thing we do in the analysis phase is we look at some of the triggers that tell us the difference between our AOP, which is going to be actual organizational performance, and our EOP. That is our expected organizational performance. So the distance between those two things are going to be where we have to measure to make them come together. So the far apart AOP is from EOP, the more we need to do in the line of training. And in the line of training, we're looking at knowledge, skills, and attitudes. That's KSAs. So when we do the analysis phase, the first thing we look at is input. The second thing we look at is process, and the third thing we look at is output. So once we see the trigger, and we know how far apart we are from where we are to where we want to be, we look at our input first. And that is going to be our organizational analysis. What is our strategic plan? What are the resources we have to achieve it? And what is the cultural environment like? Then we look at our expected performance and our actual performance. We move next into process. We have to identify our performance, and if we are far away from where we want to be versus where we are, we have to look at what we call the performance discrepancy. That's called PD. And that is going to equal our expected performance less our actual performance. And we want to know what is causing the discrepancy. So then, in order to do that, we have to do a bona fide training program. And that will be reflected in our output once we differentiate between EP and AP. Those are going to be our training needs. And there are going to be other needs which are coming from resources, and we'll call them non-training needs. So that is kind of the overview of the analysis phase, okay? And that's what we're going to be studying overall in this chapter. So when we have a performance gap, this is when we come into the bottlenecks and we are not really operating at an optimal performance level. So the performance results are going to be reversed. If expected performance is greater than actual performance, then what do we have? If our expected performance is greater than our actual performance, then we're ahead of the game. Okay? That's KSAs times motivation times environment. Now, if we're looking to correcting a performance gap, okay, then we are going to do a TNA process after the trigger. And that's what we're going to talk about throughout this chapter. We're going to be looking at organizational gaps. We're going to be looking at the analysis and how we're going to fix those gaps through training. And then we're going to do what's called a persons in unit with gap. That's a personal analysis. KSAs, knowledge, skills, and assessments, are going to provide our training solutions, what we're going to need. Other are going to be our non-training solutions. So, all through this chapter, we're going to be talking about correcting performance gaps and what do you ask and of whom when you're correcting those gaps. So we're going to be looking at job design and job performance. We're going to look at the purpose of the operational analysis and the sources for the operational analysis. And then we're going to be looking at a task analysis. So it's going to be an interesting chapter overall, and looking at how we measure KSAs is also going to be important. So that's kind of the overview of everything. We'll break it down.